Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The topic today is what makes us shine, and in a nutshell, video games make me shine. Ever since I was a child, they've pretty much been a constant in my life, and I have these cherished memories from when I was a child up until the present day. The amount of time I spend playing video games is honestly obscene, and it might almost border on a problem. However, the other thing that makes me shine, I believe, is education. That's why I've become a teacher. I love standing in front of people, expressing my thoughts and my ideas, and actually transporting these things into their brains. And so doing something along the fusion of the both I thought was brilliant. Now, when I tell people that I love teaching, I usually get a lot of interesting questions and a lot of interesting discussion. When I tell them I love video games, I often am met with this. This could actually be my mother when I tell her how much money I spend on video games. And there's this perception about video games that people think that they are dumbing us down, that they're melting our brains. I've heard every single thing you could hear about video games that is negative. Go outside and do something actually worthwhile, or read a book because this stuff isn't helping you. And I would argue that that couldn't be further from the truth. I actually believe that video games are some of the most mentally stimulating things you can do. They are absolutely incredible at building your reflexes, for example. They're actually really good at building your lateral and critical thinking skills by presenting problems and challenges that are just unfeasible in the real world. And they're also absolutely fantastic at getting people to understand masses of data and being able to pick at it and manipulate it rather easily. And if you don't believe that video games can do all that, then just take a look at this. This is very complicated when you look at it. What it is, it's a matrix that explains how certain values will be affected depending on where they are in there. So, for example, if you take the row E here and travel along it, you might find that a certain value might be multiplied by 1, multiplied by 2, or 0.5. And those individual equations are quite simple. But to hold this entire piece of knowledge in your head, all this information, seems almost insurmountable. And yet, kids up and down the country and all over the world already know this information, and they use it every single day. And what's more than that, they enjoy doing it. Because this is actually the Pokemon type chart. And if you all of a sudden just put a little bit of interesting set dressing around this stuff and a clear goal, kids can't wait to learn this stuff. Because all of a sudden now, its fire attacks are twice as effective against grass, but half as effective against water. Electric attacks, as we can see, are twice as effective against water, but absolutely ineffective against ground. And bug-type attacks are super effective against psychic Pokemon, because Yuri Geller is afraid of spiders. And so, what I want you to see right away is that although games can be incredibly challenging, people actually are very willing to opt into the experiences of playing them. And I think that is a very huge strength that they have, because games are hard. Take a look at these controllers here. If you hand this to someone who has never played a game before they even start playing the experience, they might feel intimidated just by that tool in their hand. And then you may die. You may drown. You may fall off a mountain. Just a minute, I want you to see this one again. This is poetry in motion. Winner. Fantastic. So games are very difficult, and people will bang their heads against a wall when they're playing a very difficult game. Certain bosses can take mountains of effort and mountains of determination to overcome, and yet we do so, and that's because it's worth it. The actual activity and the actual achievement of accomplishing these goals feels immense. Everyone who has played these games remember when they got their first badge fighting Misty in the water gym. Anyone who played Final Fantasy back in 1997 knows how amazing it felt to finally reach up and take on the mighty Sephiroth. Those of you who have played the Outer Wilds know how incredibly mind-blowing it is to finally unravel the mysteries of that solar system and reach the center of the universe. And I'm pretty sure at least everyone in here knows how incredible it feels to beat your grandma at Wii Tennis on Christmas. Something which I'm sure happens in some living rooms every year. And so as you can see, difficult, but worth it. And players want to do this all the time. They want to play these games. They want to be challenged. So my question is then, why can we not have this same sort of motivation in our classrooms? Why, when people play video games, do they look like this? And when they're in classrooms, they look like this? When fundamentally what we're doing is the same thing. We're challenging our students to overcome these obstacles and learn and grow and hopefully feel that sense of progress. Well, actually, I think there's a lot we can learn from video games to help us achieve these goals. And if you were to ask my students, I would hope that they would say that they enjoy my lessons. Although maybe enjoy is the wrong word. I always use the word engagement because I feel like if you pitch a lesson perfectly and the kids are engaged sufficiently, they will actually opt into your lessons and they will want to push and they will achieve and succeed. Now, video games have it a bit easier than us because video games offer an immediate high. It's visceral, it's awesome, and they are tuned to release dopamine straight away. Dopamine is the chemical that we release into our brains when we're enjoying ourselves. Things like roller coasters or eating our favorite dessert will release dopamine, and video games are very good at doing this. Teaching has much higher and much more of an uphill battle because our experience is slow. It takes a long time before students can actually feel like they've accomplished something. The experience itself is much more cerebral. We feel it in our brains more so than we do on the screen or in our hands. No one has called my lessons boring to my face. I would like to keep it that way. But ultimately, they are also worth it. And so my question again is, what can we learn from these? And I think there's actually multiple TED Talks we could talk on this. When I was preparing this talk, I went off on so many different tangents that ended up realizing, actually, that is another topic, this is another topic, this is another topic. Because there's actually lots of parallels between how video games teach people to play their games and how we teach our subjects. So what I've done is I've narrowed it down to the first impressions. Many developers who make video games say that the first 10 minutes of any game are the most important. The game might be 20 hours long, but if you don't nail those first 10 minutes, then people will put the controller down, and you've wasted years and years of effort to create these games. However, in those first 10 minutes, you have the hardest battle to fight, because the people who are playing it have to learn the controls. They have to learn what their goal is and the motivations for completing those. And you have to show them the tools with which they can achieve those goals. And more so than that, they need to enjoy doing it. So video games have a very difficult time as well, convincing us to actually opt into their games and play them over the plethora of other games and plethora of other activities there are. And yet they somehow succeed. And so what I want to look at is how they do that. What can we learn from games? And how can we put that in our lessons? And in order to do that, I think what a great thing to do is to take a look at one of the masters of the form. Take a look at one game and see how they were able to teach their concepts and get people to say, yes, I'm into this, I want to play. Portal is one of the very best games of all time, and after today, you should go and play it. It released today, coincidentally, on the Nintendo Switch. Even though it is actually 15 years old, people still want to play this game so much that they will still pay for it, and I will still pay for it. In this game, you are given a very abstract concept and a very abstract tool that is very hard to wrap your head around, but the game itself teaches you how to do it through play. In the game, you're given this item here. This is a portal gun, and it is an incredible, ingenious device. And what it allows you to do is fire a blue portal on any surface. So I could fire a blue portal on the wall at the back of this hall, and I can also fire another portal, an orange one, anywhere else. So I could fire it on the wall behind me, and then move instantly between the two. So I would walk through that one and come out there. And the implications of this were really fun. Me and my friends, when we were younger, when we finally figured out what this meant, we thought, well, you could put the blue portal in your bedroom and the orange portal in the office, and you could just walk straight to work. And that was brilliant. That was brilliant. However, that took a lot of practice to understand. And the game had to go through the same steps that we as teachers go through for us to get to that point where we could finally start seeing the applications of it. And so what it did straight away is it presented this before it allowed us to actually see what was going on. We're going to actually watch the very first part of the trailer of the game, which again is from like 2006, because it demonstrates exactly how these things work, but it doesn't allow you to experience it for yourself. So let's just watch this very quickly. This game is fantastic. this trailer is suitable for all. And we're going to leave it there. If you want to watch the rest of the trailer, it does show you some of the other applications, and the mind actually boggles when you realize what you can do when you can break physics like this. But what I really like about that trailer is that it's using the same steps that we as teachers use to teach our concepts, which is presenting a concept to our students and then slowly letting them explore and practice with this concept in safe environments, while slowly upping the complexity until we reach what is called a skill check. A skill check is a task that you apply to students or players. We'll bundle them up now and say our audience. So we give them to our audiences, and if they cannot pass this check, then it means that they're not ready for the next step and they need more practice in that safer area. Now, a good teacher will do this in their lessons all the time, and a good video game tutorial will do it too. And yet, this is loads of fun, and yet we have this little trouble. However, what they both do is they, as teachers and developers, we have what we call this Goldilocks zone, where the challenge is never too difficult and it's never too easy. Because if you make it too difficult, people won't be able to succeed and they may put the controller down. If it's too easy, then game players would become bored and our students wouldn't gain anything. They wouldn't actually improve in any way or grow in any way. And so we really need to find that perfect spot as game developers and as teachers, which we call that zone of proximal learning, where students are engaged and challenged at just that right level so that they can keep succeeding, keep enjoying that process, and certainly feel engaged and challenged. Now, that's what games and teaching have in common. So we're not really learning much there. But what I found, the difference between games and teaching in particular, was the actual processes themselves were the same, but the awareness of the processes weren't. Video game tutorials are kind of like a magic trick. When you know you're being taught, or when you know you're actually learning something, the spell is kind of broken as a game player, and you realize you're actually being patronized to. Now, this is genuinely necessary for you to get good at the game, but at the end of the day, when people know they're learning, they don't want to learn anymore. I don't understand why, but that is just the way it is. And however, when it comes to teaching, we need to show them that process, because one of the great things about entertainment is that not knowing stuff is one of the best things. Like a mystery is all the more exciting because of things you don't know. It's the thing that makes you turn the next page on the book or click on the next episode on that Netflix show that you're enjoying. Not knowing is great for entertainment, but for education, it can be a nightmare. Not knowing something in a test can be the difference between an A grade and a B grade. And not knowing why you're learning something or the processes of which you are going to learn to succeed can make things very abstract for students and make them not want to engage because they think, why is this for me? And so one thing that I take straight away from the video games is, yes, they do all this stuff well, but one place we need to diverge is we need to give kids the why. Why are they learning what they're learning? And what are the methods that they are going to use to accomplish that? Because that makes them feel so much more secure and so much more willing to buy into your lessons, because you're showing them that pathway to success and you're showing them that they will be able to achieve. I really love this one on this picture here where the person's climbing up the stairs. I feel like many of my students start on that path, and it is up to me to get them from that perspective of I won't do it, I can't do it, to I can do it and I will do it. And I really do believe that outside of the actual formal teaching that we do, the context of the teaching is really important. Now, that can be difficult to do in the first lesson. It can be really tough to sort of give the kids the serotonin bump that they need to feel good about your lesson straight away, because it takes them a long time to learn something and to be able to apply something. But what you can do in that first lesson is start with this. This is how we're going to learn, and if you put your faith in me, you will succeed. And to contextualize this in a way that kids understand, I always start with this idea here that we're a team. There's this viewpoint that a lot of kids have that students and teachers are kind of diametrically opposed. They don't like each other very much. They're mortal enemies, teachers and students. And I try and dispel that straight away. I always say we are a team, and our goal is the same. Our goal is for you to succeed. And for us to succeed, we are going to have to work as a team, which means you need to do your part, and I also need to do mine. So straight away, very common, I would give them these expectations. I say, if you do these things in my lesson, you are setting yourself up for success. But on the same way that I expect them to do this. I say to those guys, I should do this for you. And this is a really great way to start that process off of them understanding why they're learning straight away, because rather than talking about the process, I talk about myself, and I get the students to invest in me and to opt into me as a teacher. And with this, what I really like about it is that they have a metric with which to grade me, and if they don't feel like I'm doing the job I should do, they are within 100% of their right to say, and they actually have the language to do so. So again, not just awareness of the process, but awareness of how you should teach as well will make them feel more secure in the learning as well. I have a nice little phrase down there which I always give to them, and I also believe this holds very true for video games as well. I will beat you at Tekken and Smash Bros and Ridge Racer and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Team Fortress 2 and Rocket League, because I did it a lot more than you. But I was also very bad at those things for a long time. And I feel like when kids realize that these two are one of the two sides of the same coin, it makes them way more motivated to actually be present in your classes and work hard in your classes and reach that same level of success as well. So what have games taught me? Well, basically, what they've taught me is games actually do make you smart. Actually, no. What they have taught me is that there is a lot we can take from them and implement into our lessons. And what I'm hoping is with each time I explore these kinds of things, there's something I can take and give to the children which will engage them more, make them want to learn more. And in a perfect world, what I would also really like is if video games could also take from us. Because I don't know if they've realized how much they're actually teaching in the way that we do in the classrooms. And I feel like if they were able to take more from us, then maybe their experiences would be elevated as well. And even their games could have more educational values. And I could finally say to my mother, ha, actually, mother, I'm smart because of video games, not because of all that other stuff. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.